Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. We're at World West Alabama, right here in downtown Northport. This is the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. You can find us, of course, on BamaCentral.com. You can find us at Joe Gaither 6 on all the social media machines. Send us your likes, your comments, your questions, queries, and complaints as we are into the bye week now. We have bye week blues going on right here at BamaCentral.com as we don't know what to do. No, that's not true. That's not true. We went and talked with some Alabama football players today in the Naylor Stone Media Room. We talked to Justin Aboigbe, Dallas Turner, and Isaiah Bond. Coach Nick Saban had his weekly appearance on the SEC Coaches Teleconference. I imagine that even though it is a bye week, he's going to be talking to Pat McAfee on Thursday, tomorrow at 12:05 or so. You'll be watching that with me. You can follow me along on the Twitter machine at Joe Gaither 6 as I tweet out whatever he has to say with Coach Pat, or with Pat McAfee. And of course, Coach will be hitting the road after the Thursday practice. He's going to be at the lake, I believe is what he said. He's going to be at the lake doing Hey Coach remotely with Eli Gold on Thursday. So a little bit of a weird week here around the Alabama football program, around BamaCentral.com. On Saturday, we're going to be ready. We're going to be handling Alabama baseball's last fall ball scrimmage. Alabama baseball playing Florida State on Saturday at noon in a 7-inning doubleheader set on Saturday. So I'll be there for Bama Central and be covering it right there on BamaCentral.com, just like I covered the Friday night fall ball game against Auburn, 2 weeks ago, where Alabama rolled over Auburn, 5-2 and 10-0. Looked pretty good in head coach Rob Vaughn's first live appearance. So that's kind of where we are on the program. That's kind of where we are in the athletic calendar. Soccer is wrapping up. Soccer, you can check out our interviews with Jessica Skorka, with Gianna Paul, and of course with head coach Wes Hart yesterday out there at the Alabama Soccer Complex. It wasn't an exclusive interview. It was a media availability, so I don't want to hype up myself too much with anything like exclusive or anything like that. It was myself and, of course, our man Will Miller from BamaCentral.com and several other reporters interviewing those three prominent figures for the Alabama soccer program as Alabama soccer is going into its final week, its final game. They are taking on Missouri up there in Columbia tomorrow night for their last game of the year. Unfortunately, the girls lost to Mississippi State on Sunday, breaking 28 games in a row that they had gone unbeaten here at the Alabama Soccer Complex. And we'll see how they can respond. We'll see how they can respond and if that will fuel them into the SEC tournament and beyond. Maybe Alabama can win a couple games in the SEC tournament, maybe make a great showing, and ultimately host another game so they can get that bad taste out of their mouth, losing a home game here on Sunday. But we're going to not really spend a whole lot of time talking baseball and talking soccer. That's just an update for you guys where we are on the athletic calendar. Of course, you all know it's Alabama bye week. So if you got something to do on Saturday, go do that with your family. Go to the pumpkin patch, go to the haunted house, go just do something off the honey-do list, and really support your family, support yourself, do something away from football. If you have to watch some football, of course, Alabama, Georgia and Florida are playing on Saturday, and we'll get into that with on Football Friday, SEC, ESPN, on Football Friday. We'll get into that, and of course, it's going to be a huge game because Georgia is going to be without Brock Bowers. Obviously, everybody knows that. With Alabama, really, I think, needs Georgia to continue to win so that if Alabama is able to handle its business over the next 4 weeks and makes it to Atlanta, you're going to want to play an undefeated Georgia team because the rest of the college football landscape is looking like it's going to be tough sledding getting into the college football playoff. So I think you're going to have a heck of a time getting into the college football playoff. I know Alabama's sitting there at number 9, sitting there at, there's my rankings right there. Sitting there at number 9, you're going to get your first college football playoff playoff prediction, or excuse me, the college football poll on Tuesday. This coming up Tuesday. I think that's going to be at 7 p.m. So we'll have that covered for you with BamaCentral.com as well. We'll see where Alabama lands in the first college football playoff poll. But your top nine, as it currently stands: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Washington, Oklahoma, Texas, Oregon, and Alabama. And so you look at the top nine, and you look at, well, what's it gonna do? What's it gonna take to jump 5 spots to get into that 4th spot? And really, okay, Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State are gonna eliminate themselves. One of them will eliminate the other, and we'll talk about Michigan here in just a little bit as Michigan's scandal comes and touches the Alabama Crimson Tide just a little bit. And Nick Saban talking about that just a little bit today on the SEC Coaches Teleconference. So yeah, okay, Michigan and Ohio State, one of them is taking out the other. Ideally, you get Penn State winning against Michigan, and maybe Michigan beating Ohio State, and the three of them take all 3 of them out. That would be probably the most ideal scenario for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You see Florida State right there. Florida State's got a pretty decent rest of their schedule. They are, honestly, I think Florida State has had some of the best wins in college football this year. Obviously, the LSU win is not near as good as it used to be. Winning at Clemson, also not near as impressive as it used to be, but they're taking care of business each week in and week out. I mean, their closest game was that Clemson game, and then Boston College the week earlier. They kind of hit a little bit of a lull, but Florida State has got a pretty manageable rest of their schedule. At Wake Forest, at Pittsburgh, Miami at home, North Alabama at home, and then at Florida. So they're looking at a pretty manageable rest of their schedule, and then they will likely play North Carolina in the ACC championship game. Washington also has a decent little schedule, but it's gonna, well, actually they got a kind of a tough schedule. They're at Stanford this weekend. They're at USC, number 24 USC. They're you got Utah at home, number 13 Utah at home. Then they're playing at Oregon State, and then a kind of a tough rivalry game against Washington State. So you're kind of looking at the rest of the college football landscape. Oklahoma, their schedule's kind of not so difficult going down the stretch. Kansas, at Oklahoma State, West Virginia at home, at BYU, and then they've got TCU to close out the year. And then they will likely play they'll likely play either probably Texas, but they'll probably play Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Texas, and Kansas State. All are tied right there for that 2nd spot. So I kind of think they're going to play Texas once again. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see the rest of the year. And I think Alabama, due to the 3 schedules that are already just kind of hit, Florida State, Washington, and Oklahoma, Alabama fans want Georgia to remain undefeated as long as possible. Georgia, obviously, you're playing the world's largest outdoor cocktail party this weekend. You're playing that over there in Jacksonville, and then you've got Missouri coming to Athens. You got Ole Miss coming to Athens. You're going to Tennessee, and then you're going to Georgia Tech. Do I think that any of those games are losable for Georgia? So, yes, I think that Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee are all a little bit on the losable side for Georgia. But if Georgia plays to their standard and plays the way that they have been playing the last couple of weeks, I think that they'll win those games, and really you're going to set up an SEC championship game if everything holds serve. Number 1 Georgia against number 6 Alabama, number 7 Alabama, somewhere in that range is where Alabama is going to be falling for the championship weekend. And so you're going to need Georgia to be ranked number 1, and you're going to need to beat them. Not handily, but just by 1 point. You're going to need to beat them in Atlanta for the SEC championship in order to get into the college football playoff. And it's about time to really dive in and kind of focus in on the college football playoff. I know a lot of people have been worried about the polls over the last several weeks. Obviously, Alabama had taken a big drop after losing to Texas and kind of hovered around that 10, 11, 12 mark throughout the last handful of weeks. Now, starting to move up a little bit this week, moving up 2 spots, getting up to number 9. I am not one of those who poll watches week in and week out. Really, if Alabama handles its business, Alabama handles its business, winning with beating LSU, going to Kentucky and winning. Obviously, you're going to take care of Chattanooga, and then going down to Auburn and winning as well. You're going to put yourself right in the position. If you get left out at 11-1 and your only loss is to a top 10 ranked team, Texas, and you're the SEC champion, I think you got a big old bone to pick with the committee, and I just don't see that happening. You'd be 12-1 at that point after you had beaten Georgia, but your only loss would have been to a top 10 ranked team, Texas, who will likely play in the Big 12 championship game. I think that Alabama's going to have a great chance, a great case to make it into the college football playoff, and really all you got to do is keep winning. But I do think that you want Georgia to continue to win as well, because them being number one, beating number one on the last week of the regular season, or on the last week, of the season on championship weekend is a big deal. And that might be just enough to get you into that third, fourth spot in the college football playoff. I think you're going to end up with Florida State right there, as long as they don't stumble. I think Washington has plenty of chances to stumble. Oklahoma, you know how the Big 12 is, but I think Brent Venables is a pretty dang good coach and has the Boomer Sooners, has Oklahoma rocking and rolling at a pretty nice rate right now. It's really kind of what happens in the Big 10. What's going to happen between Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State? And with that, we will go right into Michigan talk. Now, don't tune it all, or you can tune it out if you want to. We'll talk about Kool-Aid McKinstry here in a little bit. We'll talk about Justin Aboybe in just a little bit, and we'll talk about the LSU Tigers here in just a little bit as well. But really what's been on my brain, what's been on my mind is Connor Stalions, the Michigan staffer, and all the news, all the stories coming out about Michigan. And really, oh my gosh. Okay, first we gotta take this on the outset. If you've been living under a rock and you only get your news from the Joe Gaither show on BamaCentral, one, I love you and I appreciate you. But if that's the only place you get your news, you haven't heard of this, Michigan is under investigation because they have an assistant coach. Well, have a staffer. He's not a coach. He's not one of the 10 on-field coaches. He's a staffer who has been allegedly, not so allegedly, buying tickets around the country to other teams' games and filming the sidelines and then deciphering the team's said signals. Now, okay, first things first. Is stealing signals illegal? No, it's not. If you can stand on the other sideline and steal another team's signals, know that they're signaling, oh, cover 2, oh, cover 3, oh, zone blitz, oh, whatever the case, they're going to be signaling in. If you can look across the field and decipher, oh, they're calling a quarterback draw, oh, they're calling a slant, oh, they're calling RPO, like that is advantageous, and I am all for coaches really studying the other sidelines during games, and utilizing the television copy that everyone gets access to, whether it be TV copy or film work that gets traded back and forth between college coaches. All right, so with that being on the outset, I am pro stealing signs. I am. But what I am against. Since 1994, the NCAA has enacted a rule that you cannot do in-person scouting of future opponents, meaning Alabama could not, even if LSU were playing this weekend, they're not. But if LSU were playing this weekend, they're not. Just making sure. If LSU were playing this weekend, Alabama could not go to the LSU game and try to decipher their signals, try to steal their signals. Alabama cannot go to Auburn is hosting Mississippi State. You can't put an Alabama staffer in Jordan-Hare Stadium and film the Auburn sidelines trying to steal their signals, trying to decipher their signals and steal them. You can't go up to Kentucky as they're playing Tennessee this weekend and go up and steal their signals. It's illegal. It's against the rules. Now, you think, why is it against the rules? Anybody can go to any game. You're right. It is true. But going back to the college football issue of parity over the last, however many years people want to act like college football is land of parity and everyone has the same 85 scholarships. You're right. Everyone does have the same 85 scholarships, but not everyone has the same recruiting budget and not everyone has the same alumni base and has the same donor base in order to build up the weight room and build up the dining hall and deck out the locker room and deck out the athletic dorms, this, that, and the other, like the University of Alabama or like the University of Georgia has done over the last couple of years. It's okay. All right. So not everyone, some people are operating on a Jacksonville State budget, and that's no disrespect to the Jacksonville State budget, but it's just not simply the University of Alabama's budget. I'm sorry, you can insert team X or Y. Ball State was on Georgia's schedule, was on Kentucky's schedule. You can insert any team into these schedules and compare them to an Alabama's budget, to an Oklahoma's budget, to a USC's budget, to a Michigan's budget, and it's night and day. You just look at what Kirby Smart has done in the recruiting trail over the last couple of years. He's been outspending every team in college football. Now, yes, they do have the same 85 scholarships, but they are putting on a show. They are putting on a great weekend for their recruits, and they are recruiting their tail off. They're traveling throughout the country. They are going to these high school games. They're getting FaceTime with their high school coaches and parents and players. And you know what? That's great. University of Georgia, that's great. That's what Nick Saban used to do and still does at a high level. But the fact of the matter is, Georgia has outspent Alabama in the last 2 years. And all right, no problem. That's fine. The issue is you legislate parity by stopping staffers from going to other games, by stopping staffers from going to, Alabama's got them, yes. Could Nick Saban send Johnny Assistant over to Auburn this weekend? And it's an easy drive. It is an easy drive. You look on StubHub, tickets as low as $24. The Auburn Tigers are having a poopy year. They're not having a good year at all. And so the tickets are dropping. But that's not the case everywhere. That's like, you look at through this Connor Stallion story. Connor Stallions reportedly makes $55,000 a year and has been buying thousands of dollars worth of college football tickets at many, many universities and putting friends or putting other assistants in those seats, or sometimes putting himself in those seats and holding up your iPhone or holding up your video camera, holding up your recording device and recording the other team's signals, and thus matching them up with what is called on the field and stealing signals and giving an unfair advantage to the University of Michigan. I have a huge problem with this. A huge problem with this because there's a certain element. You walk into a Saturday and you think we're on even playing field. The game starts 0-0. I gave my opponent the game tape from the last 3 weeks. My opponent gave me their game tape from the last 3 weeks. We studied, we looked at all their tendencies, and we put the analysts and the GAs in the back room crunching numbers, this, that, and the other. And I think that's perfectly fair. Prepare for the games. Scout the teams. Scout the TV copy. Use the information that you have to decipher tendencies, to decipher habits from other teams and other programs, and try to game plan the best you can. I think you saw this really in action on the first drive of the Alabama's second half against Tennessee. Whatever they saw, whatever the Alabama staffers saw in the skybox, from the first half to the first drive in the second half, they drew up two plays that obviously went for 75 yards and a touchdown. You had a big old run and then a big old pass play to Isaiah Bond, went for 75 yards and a touchdown. You can watch the film and you can watch it back on BamaCentral.com, the 27 things I noticed from Alabama and Tennessee that I posted this morning at 6:15 a.m. after staying up all dadgum night watching the Alabama-Tennessee game over again. I don't know why it took me so much longer. It usually takes me about 4 or 5 hours to rewatch the game. It took me right at 7, so I was up all night long. But the point being, I think an Alabama staffer, an Alabama analyst, an Alabama coach saw a tendency. They calls an RPO or what looks like an RPO right off the bat on the first play, and linebackers trail with C.J. Dupree, and linebackers go with Isaiah Bond and basically open up the middle for Jace McClellan to have a 40, 45-yard run and really set Alabama up for its next touchdown play. Same sort of thing. I think Jermaine Burton, you watch him on the second play of that drive, the touchdown pass to Isaiah Bond. Jermaine Burton runs kind of a big, long, sweeping crossing route, almost like a deep slant / shallow post, and it draws the ire and attention of the middle field safety all the way across his zone. The Tennessee was in cover 3. The middle middle safety, keeps his eye on Jermaine Burton. Burton keeps his eye, and as soon as he crosses over into the other person's zone, he turns and looks for Isaiah Bond. But by the time he looks for Isaiah Bond, he realizes, oh no, I am not deep enough. Isaiah Bond beats him, and he's gone. And boom, Jalen Milroe hits him for a touchdown pass, and the rest, you know the story. I'm all about scouting. I'm all for scouting. I think it's very, very good to be prepared as possible. The issue is you're buying up tickets. You're buying up tickets all across the country. Reportedly bought up tickets for Alabama games, reportedly bought up tickets for the last 2 years of SEC championship games, Alabama, Georgia, and Georgia LSU. Bought up tickets, last year for Tennessee and Kentucky when Tennessee had already knocked off Alabama, as maybe we're going to see Tennessee in the college football playoff. Bought up tickets for Clemson games, bought up tickets for Oregon games. The funny thing is like y'all didn't buy up any tickets for TCU. You didn't buy up any TCU tickets at all, and you let the Horned Frogs put up 51 bleeping points on you. Oh my gosh, it just is. It's an embarrassment. But it's also very evident that when you're not scouting someone like TCU, when you didn't steal their signs, well, you end up in a dogfight. TCU puts up 51 points and they beat you. So how good is your coaching staff, Michigan? How good is your coaching staff? How much have you been cheating? We talked about it yesterday on the program, how I would be so upset if I were Northwestern or Indiana or Illinois or Purdue or Rutgers, some of these other small-time Big Ten schools. Yes, you're Power 5, but you're not really playing Power 5 football like Ohio State and Penn State, like Alabama and Georgia. You're not really playing Power 5 football like Oklahoma and Texas. Really, you're more like, West Virginia. You're more like Maryland, who's also in the Big Ten. Like these other schools, no disrespect to Maryland and Mike Locksley and them, former Alabama offensive coordinator. We love you, and Tulia Tagovailoa. But really, you're not playing Power 5 football, competing for a championship. And so you get Michigan scouting out for Indiana, scouting out for Illinois, scouting out for Northwestern, scouting out for their rival, Ohio State. I'd be so dadgum livid if you've been living rent-free over, Alabama. You've been crushing Auburn year in and year out, and you end up having Auburn cheat to win, cheat to beat you, put staffers in the stands and steal your signals. So what's going to happen? Connor Stalions, he's been suspended with pay at Michigan. I don't know that he's ever going to work in college athletics again. They've uncovered a 550-page Michigan manifesto from Connor Stalions today that seems like his big ultimate goal was to work in college athletics, was to become a head coach at the University of Michigan at some point after Jim Harbaugh's departure. I don't know if that's ever going to happen for you, buddy, because, look, you seem like you might be one of the smartest people in the world. Honestly, you seem like you might be one of the smartest college football minds in the world by being able to decipher these signals, and accurately give the information to the Michigan offensive and defensive coordinators, letting them know what they're about to, if you're about to be against cover 2, you're about to be against cover 3. Oh, they're blitzing here. It's so much easier to call offense. They're going to be blitzing from the right side. Call your daggum screen right into it. Call your running play away from it. It makes life a lot easier to really be successful. And so Connor Stalions, I don't know if you're ever going to work in college athletics again once this thing is all unraveled. Jim Harbaugh, it's been well known that he's flirted with the NFL almost every year. And really, I thought the flirtation with the NFL was just to bump up his salary, just to ensure more security at Michigan, just to get to a place where he's getting a raise at Michigan. But at this point, more trouble for Jim Harbaugh. I think he's going to be out. I think he's going to be out at the end of the year. I think he's going to be going back to the NFL at the end of the year. Maybe he's going to be coaching my Chicago Bears. Maybe he's going to be coaching the Buffalo Bills. Maybe he's going to be coaching who knows where. The Denver Broncos, I know they're only in year 1 with Sean Payton, but they're absolutely terrible. Where else? I mean, he could coach a lot of places. Minnesota Vikings are having a kind of a mediocre, bad year. If the Packers are dumb enough to fire LaFleur, then maybe he'll go there. But, yeah, he's going to be in demand. Maybe he's going to go to the Giants. He's going to be in demand this year, and I think he's going to be out at Michigan. So, this little mini dynasty. Not really. You got to win a championship to win a dynasty. I guess if you beat Ohio State twice, that counts as your dynasty. But your little mini run that Michigan has gone on, going to the college football playoff, 2 years in a row, losing to Georgia and TCU, respectively. I think that maybe this mini run that you've gone on is about to blow up in smoke. And it's such it's such a terrible thing, really, from me as someone who loves college football, because it's better when Michigan is good. It's better when Texas is good. It's better when USC is good. Obviously, Alabama has been damn good for the last 16, 17 years. College football is better when the Blue Bloods are good, when the Blue Bloods are ruling the sport. Your Texas, your Oklahomas, your Ohio States, your Alabamas are ruling the sport. And, this is going to put a big old black eye over everything, really, and what it does. And the painful thing is it puts a big old black eye over everything that Michigan's done over the last 2 years. You look at their record, beating Ohio State twice, now it has an asterisk, whether you cheated or not. Getting to the college football playoff now has an asterisk, whether you cheated or not. And so what's going to happen? I predict that Michigan will lose to Penn State and then will lose to Ohio State. I know I was hoping earlier, I espoused earlier that I wanted them to have a little three-way defeat each other, a little triangle of death. But I think Michigan's going to lose to both Penn State and Ohio State, get themselves knocked out of the college football playoff contention. Will they be bowl eligible due to the scandal? I mean, they'll certainly be bowl eligible on the field. They're already bowl eligible on the field. But will there be enough scandal, enough smoke to eliminate Michigan from bowl contention, really on the grounds of inappropriate activity? I sure hope so. I sure hope that really this gets uncovered. This gets really dig away at. Find out really how far this goes. And you get people that says, oh, that happens all the time. It happens all the time. Maybe it does. And if it does, this all goes back to Jim Harbaugh lying to the NCAA about COVID visits and buying hamburgers, this, that, and the other. It all goes back to Jim Harbaugh lying to the NCAA and inviting the ire, inviting the scrutiny of the NCAA onto his program. Why does Alabama not want any of its programs in trouble? I'm sorry. Look, I think that Alabama does a great job of being compliant. I absolutely do. And maybe that makes me naive. Maybe that's certainly to some degree. But I think that largely, as a whole, Alabama does a pretty good job keeping its programs compliant. And why? Because the second you have, I don't even want to name a sport because I don't want to throw any dirt or any shade, undue dirt or shade on a program that's operating above board and handling things the right way. But let's just say program X was, before the age of NIL, doing something illegal. Program X or Y was doing something illegal. The second you invite the NCAA onto your campus, they go sniffing at the football program. They go sniffing at everybody. They want the biggest fish. Let's look what happened with LSU. Will Wade lies to the NCAA. Will Wade avoids the NCAA. Will Wade avoids his employer. And the NCAA goes, oh, well, we're going to come in there and do a real good investigation. And what do they find? Inappropriate activities around the football program as well. Ed Orgeron fired. Now fired due to poor play, poor performance on the field. But said, oh, it's because he's, not controlling the program, not keeping things above board. Any little dirt on your shoe in a program, in an athletic department, everything, what is it? Bleep rolls uphill. You're going to end up with the biggest fish. And that's why I think Alabama has such a propensity to try to keep things as above board in all of its sports. They don't want any dirt getting on Nick Saban's toes, getting on Nick Saban's program, or inviting any scrutiny from the NCAA. And you can't blame them. So Michigan, you're going to be in bad trouble. You're going to be in bad trouble. And I think that the program, I think the little mini dynasty as you know it is over. I'm hopeful that it gets solved on the field, that Penn State and Ohio State end up winning and eliminating Michigan. That way, nobody can say, well, you kept them out of the college football playoff and you didn't really know. You didn't have the investigation done. I'm hopeful that Penn State and Ohio State, you saw James Franklin talking today. James Franklin, the Penn State head coach, talking today about, well, when a coach, when you feel like you got a good call coming on and you realize the other team has the perfect call to stop that situation, and it doesn't, I mean, if it happens once, it's no big deal. It happens that, sometimes that happens, but if it happens over and over and over again, you start to feel like they've got some insider knowledge. I think James Franklin was letting it out right there as best he could at the podium today. All right, so let's keep it rolling here on the Joe Gaither Show. We're talking to you guys on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. We're talking to all the listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. You can find us right there on BamaCentral.com and, of course, anywhere on the social media machines at Joe Gaither 6. You may notice the microphone doesn't sound the right way today because got some equipment failures, but we power through it. You can send me your comments, questions, queries, and complaints right there at Joe Gaither 6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show. Before we get back into the Alabama football talk, just a little tidbit. I am 6-2 this year against the spread on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only games that I've lost this year are the dadgum Arkansas Razorback game, where Alabama let me down, letting Arkansas back into the game. And the first game of the year, MTSU at -39. I took MTSU and the points, and Alabama absolutely blew the doors off the Blue Raiders. All right, so let's get back into Alabama football talk. Today, SEC Media Coaches Teleconference. Coach Nick Saban is asked about Kool-Aid McKinstry. If you watched yesterday's program, it was a point of our discussion. It was a discussion point. What's going on with Kool-Aid McKinstry? Why is he letting all these punts fall and not fielding them? And we don't need to have a huge return. That's no problem if you don't want to return the kicks, but you have to receive the kicks. You have to receive the kicks and save field position for the Alabama Crimson Tide offense. So what's been going on with Kool-Aid McKinstry? That was kind of our talking point yesterday. He let nearly every punt drop on Saturday, and he let nearly every punt drop against Arkansas as well. He only has, I think, 8 punt returns on the season, and I believe one of them came against MTSU. So what's going on with Kool-Aid McKinstry? Why are we not catching the ball? Are you afraid of catching the ball? Are you not going to catch the ball if there's no chance to have a big return? Or do you not want to put your body at risk? Or the couple of muffed punts that happened earlier in the year still in the back of your mind? Well, Nick Saban addressed the question, appropriate question. Nick Saban addressed the question. We were confident in Kool-Aid. He said some of the balls on Saturday he lost in the sun. The rugby punters, the ball goes off them a little bit funny. He says the rugby punter, one of the balls sailed on Kool-Aid, and he was going to have to try to make an outside his body catch to make the catch, and ultimately decided not to. The ball bounced and rolled down at like the 3-yard line where Alabama started on its second to last drive. You can see that on my rewatch, 27 things I saw when watching Alabama's 34-20 victory over the Tennessee Volunteers. It's right there on the front page of BamaCentral.com. All right, no problem. Decent explanation. He says that we're confident in Kool-Aid. We have no doubts. He has no issues. All right, fine. We go about 4 hours. About 3 to 4 hours thinking, all right, Kool-Aid, his punt returning spot is safe. He was second team All-American punt returner last year, according to Football Writers Association of America. Like, the dude can return punts. You have seen him be very dangerous with the football in his hands. But the step one is catching the football, which he has opted not to do in the last couple of weeks. All right, so Coach Saban puts that to bed, maybe. Oh, sweet girl, you can't chew on my sunglasses. That's the problem. No, he puts that to bed, maybe. And then we meet with the players today. We meet with Justin Boybe. We meet with Dallas Turner. And we meet with Isaiah Bond. And Isaiah Bond was in front of the media for, I believe, the first time in his Alabama career. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and please correct me if I'm wrong if you know when he's been up at the podium before. But I believe it was his first time in the Alabama career. And he was asked, he didn't volunteer this, he was asked, Isaiah Bond, did you return punts in high school? Is it something you're still working on? And Isaiah Bond says, yes, sir, I did return punts in high school. Yes, sir, it's still something I'm working on, and you'll see me soon. All right, Isaiah Bond. I know that. I know that you're kind of a media newbie at this, and obviously we're very thankful for your touchdown reception and for all your work on the offensive side of the football this year. I know you're a little bit of a media newbie, but ourselves in the media room latched onto that. You'll see me soon. Oh, Coach Saban said earlier that he was confident in Kool-Aid. Now, granted, that doesn't change Coach Saban's confidence in Kool-Aid. And soon, the word soon means something different to everyone. I'm going to have dinner soon, which is like in an hour. I'm going to pay my car payment soon, which is in like 2 weeks. I'm going to be going to Christmas shopping soon, which is like in 3-4 weeks. Soon is different to everyone. Was Isaiah Bond saying, you'll see me soon, as in you'll see me next week against LSU, you'll see me the next 4 weeks for the season, and you'll see me the rest of the year because I will actually catch the ball? And maybe I don't offer the exact same explosive return. No, Isaiah Bond, damn fast, damn explosive, great athletic. But great athleticism. Great athlete. I wouldn't be able to catch him. I wouldn't be able to tackle him. No way, Jose. But what does he mean by soon? Do you mean that you're going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry's job? Or are you just exuding confidence in your own ability? Which is fine. You want all the players to be confident in their own ability. You do. Or are you talking, well, when Kool-Aid moves on next year, I'm going to take that role? Like soon could be, anytime, I'll be going to Atlanta soon. I'll be watching baseball soon. I'll watch basketball soon. Like soon is different to everyone. So it wasn't a specific timetable. It wasn't a specific statement. He didn't declare himself the new punt returner, but it did fly a little bit in the face of what Nick Saban had to say on the SEC coaches teleconference. And so that was a little bit interesting today. And look, I don't care who returns the punt. Quite frankly, I don't care if you don't get a single punt return the rest of the year, but you've got to stop letting the ball bounce and roll, 5, 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. You've got to catch the dadgum football. Even if it's waving your hands up, and I'm fair catching every single punt. You've got to catch them. You've got to catch them and prevent that extra 5, 10, 15, 20 yards of roll that, okay, look, I love our offense just because I love the Alabama players and I know how hard they're working. But let's all be honest. The offense is not the greatest. It's just not. The offense needs all the help it can get. It does. Which is why I was so surprised at Josh Heupel's decision to go for it on 4th down both of the first 2 times, really setting up Alabama's offense with short fields rather than give his defense a lot of cushion, give his defense a lot of places, a lot of field behind them to make stops. I was surprised. But from the punt returning standpoint, you cannot make the Jalen Milroe offense go an extra 5, 10, 15 yards. That's gonna be the difference in points. That's going to be the difference in getting into Will Reichert field goal range. That's going to be the difference in hitting a touchdown pass, in being able to sustain a drive all the way down into the red zone and into the end zone. It's a problem. And so Kool-Aid, if you want to keep the job, Coach Saban, I trust. I'm not out there at practice. I don't know who's working all the time at what. And you just got to take Coach Saban for his word this morning, saying we're confident in Kool-Aid. We don't think he has any trouble. We don't think he has any issues. We're confident in Kool-Aid. All right, so we're going to stick it with Kool-Aid McKinstry. We've seen him do the job before. I think that can work out well. Kool-Aid, will you catch the football? If it's not going to be Kool-Aid McKinstry, if he's not going to catch the football, you turn to Isaiah Bond, you turn to Jermaine Burton, you turn to a Ja'Cory Brooks, you turn to anyone who will catch the football. And I know that's got to be one of the scariest positions in the world. You're looking up into the sky, you're seeing the ball, you're like, okay, I got to catch it, I got no choice but to catch it. And gunners, athletes, some of the best athletes in the SEC play gunner. Our guy, Terrion Arnold and Kendrick Law, serve as gunners for Alabama. So imagine Terrion Arnold and Kendrick Law barreling down on you. Oh, gosh, yeah, nerve-wracking position. Not something that I would like to do myself. But Alabama has got to have more production at the very least. Catch the punt, call fair catch, catch the punt, set the offense up. Now, obviously, if it's inside the 10-yard line, you don't catch the punt. You put your heels on the 10 and you don't catch it if it's over your head. You know the rules just like I do. But if it's on the 20, you got to catch the ball. You can't allow the ball to roll down to the 5 to the 4 to the 4 to the 3-yard line. You cannot allow that and back up the Alabama offense. All right, I want to talk about one more thing from Alabama's media session today in the Naylor Stone media room, and then I want to talk about LSU for just a brief moment as we start looking at the Bayou Bengals. Justin Eboigbe was up at the podium today, and I don't know. I hope that if you read my 27 things that I noticed from Alabama's 34-20 win over Tennessee, that's on BamaCentral.com. I hope that if you read that, you look at all the times. Just go Control F. That means Control Find. Control F. Type in the word Eboigbe into that article and just see how many times it pops up. Justin Eboigbe has been an absolute madman for this Alabama defense. He has played his tail off the entire season. Now, a lot of that is due to his veteran leadership. He's seen a lot. He's been there. He's done that. But I just want to give him a lot of compliments because last year he left the season after 4 games with a broken freaking neck. All right, that's the Kurt Angle line. I don't think it was broken. I think it was a strained neck. I think he had a neck, but he had a neck injury. I don't think it was a broken freaking neck. That's just, I'm sorry, don't take that to heart. That's just the Kurt Angle line. I won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. But no, Justin Eboigbe had a neck injury last year. That much we knew. Justin Eboigbe was almost not medically cleared to play football ever again. That much is true, and that much we knew. Justin Eboigbe, after the Tennessee game, saying, if you only knew where I was this time a year ago. And I've rehabbed an injury or two in my time playing football, but never a neck injury. You guys wake up, you've been sleeping the wrong way, you got your neck bothering you, this, that, and the other. It jams up your entire day. It jams up your whole life. If you can't turn to your right, to your left, if you can't look up, look down, you don't have flexibility in your neck, it jams up everything that you do. And so Justin Eboigbe fought through the injury, rehabbed himself, got back to a place where he's starting for Alabama. And look, last year's defense was doing pretty well, I think. But when Justin Eboigbe went out, I think you took a huge dip because you had to kick Will Anderson inside a lot of the time. And you weren't able to play Will Anderson in his natural position, especially in that cheetah package. And I think it really jammed up and jumped up what Alabama was able to do on the defensive side of the ball. Justin Eboigbe back in the fold now. He's not the only one. Of course, the defensive line has looked a lot better with Tim Keenan and Jaheim Otis and also Jamarian Latham as well. But Justin Eboigbe kind of providing that old man leadership in the room. Like, he has been all over the place. 38 tackles, 3 sacks, and he forced the safety in the Texas A&M game. He really was all over the field against Tennessee. He read a lot of what Tennessee's offense was trying to do very, very well. He got the first tackle on the first third down stop of the day on Tennessee's second drive. You can see that on the things I noticed. I think I must have wrote Justin Eboigbe's name 50 times last night as I was watching the film. I just want you to appreciate the way that he fights up front, fights through double teams, fights through blocks up front. Yeah, I know Jahad Campbell and Deontay Lawson do look amazing, and they're playing stud inside linebackers. But in this coming up week, when Alabama's playing LSU, take you a couple of snaps. Maybe you watch the ball all the time. Maybe you don't watch the line a lot. Take you a few snaps and say, I'm just going to find number 92, and I'm going to watch him. And he's just super impressive. The effort that he gives, the way that he plays, really 100 miles an hour, wide open the entire time. And not only just playing wide open, but he plays under control, and he seems to know exactly what the defense or what the offense is trying to do. He's all over the camera frame. He's in almost every camera shot at the either in on the tackle or there at the end in hot pursuit of the tackle. So Justin Eboigbe, I think, is one of the most underrated players on this Alabama football team. And I think that Alabama football fans need to really appreciate what he is doing for the Alabama defense. You're opening things up for Deontay Lawson and for Jahad Campbell. And Trez Marshall when he's back healthy. And I would expect Trez Marshall to be back healthy for the LSU game. But really, you got a menace like that on the defensive front, It allows Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner to get after the passer more. It just opens everything up when the opposing offense has to game plan for a game-wrecking defensive lineman. So, Justin Boydby, big credit to you for what you've done so far this year, not only fighting through your neck injury, but playing at a high level. And I think that really he needs to be respected and really earn some praise from the Alabama fan base. All right, last topic for the day, as we're here on a Wednesday, talking to you from the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on Instagram. Well, I'm not really on Instagram, but you can find me there. On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon as well. You can search the show, the Joe Gaither Show, on BamaCentral. Let's talk about LSU for just a quick moment. We're going to have a lot of time to talk about LSU, but you all know what LSU did last year, beating Alabama in overtime. Brian Kelly trying to do a repeat of that. Let's look at LSU's season so far as we start to preview just a little bit on the Bayou Bengals. All right, most of you probably watched the Sunday night game, opening weekend of the season, Florida State LSU, where Florida State physically beat the brakes off of the LSU Tigers. I know LSU was without a defensive lineman. It was a Mason Smith. Was without a defensive lineman, and maybe that would have helped a little bit. But physically manhandled. Florida State physically manhandled LSU up front throughout the game, and really on offense and on defense, beat them 45-24. All right, you're thinking, oh, how good is this Florida State squad? And Florida State has shown that they are pretty dadgum good throughout the rest of the year. Undefeated through the year, only a couple of close calls. All right, so LSU, you're like, okay, well, you took it on the chin to an ACC school. You go home, you beat Grambling State 72-10. I throw out that game. I don't care what you do against anybody I don't care about what you do against anybody who's almost not in the Power 5. And Grambling State is, no disrespect, but HBCU, not in the Power 5. They're an FCS as well. All right, so just like I throw out the MTSU game for Alabama, and I'm going to throw out the Chattanooga game when it happens. All right, so you move on. At Mississippi State, and you think, oh, wow, big 41-14 win. LSU, how good are you? Well, come to find out, Mississippi State is really bad. Mississippi State is not a good football team. Absolutely awful. But you still get a big road win, and now you're 2-1. You're 1-0 in the SEC. Okay, good. Then you go back home, and you play Arkansas, 34-31. And going into that game, I thought, oh, Arkansas, you're not good. Just like I said on the program, 2 weeks ago before Alabama's homecoming game against Arkansas, and then why I took Alabama minus the 20 against Arkansas. Well, Arkansas is a fighting football team. They are. I know they just fired Dan Enos, and they haven't won an SEC game, and they just lost 7-3 to Mississippi State, but they are at least a fighting football team. All right, LSU wins 34-31. All right, then LSU goes to Vaught Hemingway Stadium, goes to Ole Miss, and loses a crazy game, 55-49 to Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. And you're thinking, okay, Ole Miss, you just lost Alabama. You bounce back and you beat LSU. Is it LSU bad or Ole Miss good? I don't really know yet. Okay, so LSU goes on the road and goes to play undefeated Missouri, and ends up beating them 49-39 in a game that was a whole lot closer than the 10-point line suggests, the 10-point margin of victory suggests. LSU pulled away late, and I believe Missouri went for it on a fourth down that they didn't get, allowing LSU to score late. And LSU had a defensive touchdown late as well. Okay, so you beat undefeated Missouri. Are you good, LSU? I don't know. Okay, so you get a week off. No, you play the next week against Auburn. Auburn had the week off before the game. And Auburn, oh my God, hapless. You beat Auburn 48-18. Auburn's offense is non-existent. I think that I could play quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. I think that you could play quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. Their offense is absolutely atrocious. What are you chewing on? I don't know what you're chewing on, but I don't like it. And last but not least, LSU hosts Army this past week and beats them 62-0. So what does their schedule tell you? What does their 6-2 record tell you? Well, to me, not much, because you lost to really the only real good teams that you played. Yeah, I'm giving Florida State a lot of credit. I'm giving Ole Miss some credit. Yeah, I think Ole Miss is a pretty decent team, a pretty good little team. But no, I don't really respect Mississippi State, Arkansas. I know that Auburn might make me eat my words here in the next couple of weeks, but I don't really respect the Auburn Tigers. I think Missouri is a nice little story, but I don't know that Missouri is an elite football team. They're probably going to get their brains beat in by Georgia. So what does that tell you? Yeah, they're 6-2. Yeah, they have the number one offense in the SEC. And Jaden Daniels is dang good. Jaden Daniels is a hell of a quarterback. Absolutely a great quarterback. He's got a really good receiver in Malik Neighbors. And Brian Kelly is a fine little coach. He's a fine coach. But what is that? What are they really? I don't really think that. I don't really think that I'm as nervous as the rest of Alabama's fan base is playing LSU in 2 weeks. Yes, the offense coming in is going to be tremendous. It's going to be something to behold and something that Alabama has to prepare for and has to game plan for and has to be ready for. But I think that as we round out the program today, you should look at LSU's schedule, who they've won against, who they've beaten, and who they've lost to. The points that they've allowed. They allowed 55 points to Ole Miss. They allowed 45 points to Florida State. They gave up 39 points to Missouri. And I know 18 points is not a lot, but they gave up 18 points to Auburn, who has no offense. They gave up 31 points to Arkansas. I think that Alabama's going to be able to find a way to slow it down and really get some confidence offensively, score some points, give the defense time to make adjustments on the sidelines. I think Alabama's going to win. I'm feeling pretty good about the Alabama-LSU game in 2 weeks, and we will talk about it some more as the rest of the week goes on and as we open up next week. So that's going to do it for our program today. We looked at LSU a little bit. We looked at Connor Stalions just a little bit. We looked at the college football playoff picture just a little bit. We talked about Kool-Aid McKinstry and Isaiah Bond and Justin Aboigbe as well from their media availability today. And we talked to you guys right here at the Joe Gaither Show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, BamaCentral.com, the Sports Illustrated home for your Alabama Crimson Tide.